Money. My name is Val Stratford, and I'm a financial planner.
And I'm Sherry, a financial coach. And this week we are going to talk all about lowering and adjusting your expectations based on how you're feeling physically, how you're feeling mentally, and how to set your days up based on the different expectations of how you're feeling, but also talk through how to not beat yourself the fuck up for lowering your expectations, because we just can't do it all every day. And we need to realize that and be kind to ourselves.
Yes. And I think doing it all every day, and also there's going to be times in our lives where different parts of our life pie require more from us, whether it's relationships or family or business, or some aspects are going to be going great and some are not going to be going so great. So then not letting that taint the entire pie.
Yeah.
So same with our bad days or our lower energy days, not letting that be our story, naming them, accepting them, and doing our best to not beat ourselves up.
Yeah. Ooh, I love the pie analogy. I wonder, is it an ADHD thing to be able to create an analogy for a specific subject out of
it? Probably
absolutely anything
would absolutely make sense with the way that my brain works.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, I understand what you're telling me. Let me put it into a different form.
Let me explain it 3 different ways and hope that one resonates with you.
Yes.
And something that really resonated with me that I saw recently was a post about giving the days, depending on your energy level, different names. So this specific person called them red, yellow, green days, and having it be based on, so red days, you are doing the bare minimum. If you have tiny humans, you're keeping them alive, you're keeping yourself alive, you're eating, you're doing the requirements of your day from a personal and a business perspective, but you're not going above and beyond. Maybe the dishes stay in the sink and the laundry doesn't get washed or folded. You're doing essentials on that day only.
And I would say for myself as well, this really changes with my cycle. There are days where I am on fire and everything is amazing, on fire in the good way. And then there's days where I am totally depleted and it feels like I could sleep for weeks. So giving yourself that grace, because we cannot always do everything all the time or we're going to burn out.
And I've started, and those periods where you feel like you're on fire, probably just before and during ovulation, because that's when we have more energy. And I've started to, just in the last month, focus on, because I can't be in a low energy state of mind when I'm creating content. I need to be in that good mental headspace. So those days around the ovulation, I'm going to try moving forward to have those days be the days that I'm creating content for the month, because it just feels good. It feels easier. And being able to do that when I'm in the better headspace is better for everybody.
Yes. I would also point out too, with those red days, there's times where there's going to be things that you have to do. And sometimes it's going into a client meeting and knowing that I'm not the version of myself that I would like to be, but then trying to pull that. And then typically by the end of that client meeting, I'm like, oh, it was so good. It was so good to see them. But you have to work harder to get to the version of yourself that you want to be.
And especially if they're those dream clients that you love to work with, that energy tends to bring you up.
Yes. It just lifts, what's that? It's high tides raise all ships or something like that.
Sayings and analogies. We're here for it. But also knowing on those red days that it's okay to be flexible and reschedule things.
Yes. And I was actually having a conversation with a client this week, and she was sharing of when she is feeling herself kind of going into that red zone. I feel like purple is a better color, but it's okay. That's just my visual. When you're going into that kind of needing to recharge more, or else you're going to be empty, taking the things off your schedule that aren't necessary, right? Or that you can reschedule, that you can move around. So giving yourself that flexibility. And it's not always possible to move everything. It's not like you can clear the next 7 days necessarily, as much as that's sometimes what we really feel we need. Doing what you can to rearrange things, to give yourself the space and give yourself the grace to be like, this is okay. This is not my whole recipe. This is just an ingredient.
Yeah. Yeah. And being able to adjust your schedule. So if you are an entrepreneur and you do meet with clients, being able to, maybe there's a week every month that you either block out so you're not seeing clients, or you work a reduced schedule. So instead of being available to meet with 6 clients, you meet with 3 or 4, so that it's adjusting that going forward and being able to give yourself that grace kind of ahead of time, with the anticipation of, you know what, this is that time of the month that I know I'm going to be low energy, be in those red days. And
Yeah.
oh yeah, red days. I just thought that analogy now. But yeah, being able to have that grace and step back. And I have had times when it's like, oh, I'm just not feeling it today. And I have messaged clients that I'm supposed to meet with and just said, like, we can still meet. I don't want to screw up your schedule, but I'm not feeling 100%. Like, I'm feeling a little off. And if you're open to reschedule, let's talk about it. And if not, that's perfect. Like, I will see you later. And
I will be there.
They're usually very understanding and lean into the, like, nope, like, you do what you need to today. Like, find times that are available and we will reschedule, because they understand. When you work with really good clients, they're usually understanding. And then it's kind of that quid pro quo that, you know, when they have those days and it's like, I do have policies about rescheduling and all of those things, but I'm also like, give and take that grace with my clients.
And part of that too, like for me anyways, has been tracking my cycle. Now my cycle for a good chunk of time was like bang on, and now it's been like a 36 to 38 day cycle.
What?
I know. So it's been a little, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I'm working on that, whether it's going to be fasting or dealing with my stress somehow. Something is not jiving. But having a tracker, ideally, if your cycle also wants to hang out and like participate, that's helpful as well.
Days.
Yes.
Interesting.
So then before I was running off of like when I was very routine, I would make my schedule and be like, okay, I'm going to block out these days because I know they're going to be red, purple days, whatever you want to call them. But now I'm like, what the hell is my cycle doing?
And so, not sponsored, but this little guy is an Aura ring. And it is very helpful with cycle tracking because it tracks your temperature down to the 0.1 degree. And it helps you, based on your cycle, based on your temperature, anticipate where you are in your cycle. And I really have been leaning into it to help me not only with my sleep, but with that cycle tracking to know. And I'm a much shorter cycle, like shorter than normal. So being able to see that, and that helps me to plan things out. Somebody needs to create, or tell us if this exists, a scheduler where clients can book with us, and it allows us to have the schedule automatically adjust based on our cycle length. Because I can go and adjust my scheduler so that I have to do it manually, but if there is some way that it could be automatic, that would be
some sort of plugin, some sort of Calendly plugin.
Yeah. Bonus points if it were to like link to an Apple Watch or an Oura Ring to be like, your schedule changed this month and I'm going to adjust it based on what. Oh, that would be wild. Anyways.
So that's what I was doing at the beginning of the year. I was blocking those days, knowing what they would be like, and knowing that would be like my admin days. That's where I'm going to be working in like behind the scenes in my business. And then it wasn't lining up, and I was like,
yeah.
So
gotta revisit. And then kind of like one step down or one step up, I guess, from an energy level is that yellow day where you're not striving for all the things, but you're showing up a little more, being able to be a little higher energy, maybe get some things that are not the bare minimum, just the essentials done. And then that green day is when you are feeling it, you're in the groove, you're able to do the things. Maybe you get caught up on laundry, caught up on your email inbox,
and you feel good being on top of it. You're not like you're still maybe forcing yourself to be on top of it, but it comes easier to be doing the things, like it's all lining up.
So those green days, they're the days that you maybe knock out some things on your list that have been lingering there. And when it comes to like the how and when to decide, on what kind of day you're feeling like.
Hmm.
I don't think there's a perfect formula.
No, and I think sometimes you don't necessarily realize that you're in a certain day until you're in a certain day, right? Or it might start out as a green day and then you're like, this is a yellow day. So there's no perfect time to decide. And even to the point of trying to plan it with your cycle still might not do what you think it's going to do.
Yeah.
I think the coolest part about, I'm going to say, being female, and also the uncoolest part is the cyclical nature of our energy and our hormones and our emotions, where I feel like typically more male hormone cycles level, right?
Even Steven.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's wild. And when we both talked about this too, like neurotypical spouse and being able to, and we talked about earlier, switching brains with them just to
Yes.
see what it's like not to have a million ideas, but you could like switch just like plug into their body and what they think and what they feel.
How they think about getting something done. Or when they're sitting there, what are they thinking about? Like,
Yeah.
what's actually going on in your brain? And when they say nothing, is it really nothing? So I'm
I
like,
think it is.
like how?
I think it is. Bless their hearts.
And then,
I
like,
just can't do it.
try to meditate in both bodies, right? Be like, oh, that's how that works.
Ooh, I wonder, because my husband's really chill. I
Mhm.
wonder how chill he would be if he implemented some of the strategies that I do to try and be a tiny sliver chill.
Mm.
Like if he meditated or like just journaled. Ooh, how chill would he be?
Oh my gosh, Netflix, please. The gender swap. You know how like Wife Swap used to be a show?
Yep.
We're gonna do that, except spouse swap with our hormones.
I don't know. It's probably not going to happen, but we can dream. And it's okay to have those days and like mentally. I know I have a lot of perfectionist tendencies and I can be, okay, I was going to do this because I've talked about before that I plan what I'm going to do tomorrow, today, before like my day is over.
Yeah.
And you don't know how you're going to feel tomorrow. Like in some cases you can have an idea, but you
Right.
don't necessarily like, how did I feel today? I'm not going to have wild changes between today and tomorrow, but being able to adjust those expectations and not beat yourself up. So if you have a list that is the expectation you're going to have a green day and then you wake up and you just feel off, maybe you're starting to get sick, maybe something's like whatever's happened, it's okay to adjust. And maybe you even make that list and the top, like prioritize based on I want to do 5 things, but if I like, this is a green day to get the 5 things done, and 3 things is a yellow day, and 2 things is a red day. I don't know, random musings.
To that point, yes, when you're having those days where you're not on top of things, not being harder on yourself. I think that's such a big thing, is like when the house isn't looking the way I want it to do, or there's things in my business that I need to get done that aren't done, within balance, right? Like using it as a motivator to help yourself get them done, but then also not wasting all of your energy worrying about it. Like, it's such a dance.
It is a dance, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're not doing something. It can mean you're lowering the level of which you do something. So maybe you wanted to like knock out content for your social media and you wanted to do like 3 posts about this, and maybe it's just like, you know what, I'm going to do 3 posts still, but I'm going to like revisit ones that I did before and like copy and paste those captions and just tweak them slightly. And that's still okay because people that saw those posts before, they're not going to know you repeated them. Like you'll know, but nobody else will know. And just thinking about how can you reduce your task list, but how can you reduce the level of effort for some of the tasks on your list? And how can you delegate more? Can you lean into that to say, like, I need help? Like, can you cook dinner if you've got older kids or a spouse that you live with, just to be, I need some help.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering too, like, can you make a visual signal in your house? So if you work from home, and you have a spouse or partner that works outside of the house, or even if they work in the house, like just picture like flags at the front door.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
oh,
This is the type of day we're having. That would be a really good communicator, I would think.
yeah,
Probably
that's
pretty
interesting.
handy.
And I've seen some like lights that people use if they work from home to let their family know if they're busy or like in a meeting.
Yes.
And the same thing could be used for like, if you've got 3 or 4 different colors of lights. It's like there's an I'm in a meeting light, and then I'm having a green day, a yellow day, a red day.
How often do we talk about our energy levels maybe with each other, or we check in with ourselves, but how often do we full communicate to the household?
Yeah.
Very
I mean,
clearly.
they know.
They know, but how often do we very clearly be like, this is the day?
How can we help them find out in a different way?
Yeah.
Like, how can we proactively let them know versus they come home and we bite their heads off and then they know?
Here we go. We need to get a flag system or a light system.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about adjusting your expectation, be kind to yourself. It's okay to lower the bar. It's okay to do less. It's better to do less and not burn yourself out. So then you ideally have more going into the next day versus a day when you push yourself much beyond what you're able to do based on how you're feeling. And then that definitely will lead into the next day. Be patient with yourself, please, my dear.
Yes. Yes. And then I also balance back to be like, and I think it's more so just like a message to myself of balance it. Like, yes, be patient with yourself, but then get the shit done.
Yeah. And maybe it's more focus for a shorter period of time. Like if you feel low energy, it's like, I'm going to knock these 3 things out and then I have time for a nap.
Yes.
Versus maybe some procrastination and delay. And yeah, there's a whole lot of different ways to look at changing things based on how you're feeling and the mental and physical capacity you have to get the shit done. Because ultimately, we do need to get the shit done, but there's a lot of different ways to make that happen.
Yeah, and so don't be afraid to name those days and to realign as need be for those days.
Yeah. Yeah, and just be patient. Be patient. The things will all get done. They'll ultimately all get done. So we are glad that you have been here listening to the Mind and Money podcast, and we can't wait to see you next time, and we hope you have a great day. Bye.